Hi, it's Boyd Neal again, and I'm coming to you again from Manhattan on a lovely October afternoon. I wanted to make a couple of comments. This is session 8, and the session 8 is focusing on privacy, transparency, and respect. And I want to take each one of the concepts and very quickly give you some top line ideas about those three as they relate to social media. As you probably know and probably are aware if you do any reading, even in the daily newspaper, there's been a steady erosion of privacy online. In particular, with the recent disclosures about the NSA spying activities, it's just the latest in a series of revelations about the extent to which information is available to governments and companies on the social web. Most of this is a consequence of information we willingly surrender and some information that we innocently give away to companies and organizations because we feel connected to their products and services. But what individuals have to be most watchful, though, are when social platforms change their privacy settings. As you know, Facebook is notorious for doing this, and they do it in the interest of collecting what has come to be known as big data. And certainly Facebook is probably one of the more notorious of the social platforms that's often changing its privacy settings without telling you. And sometimes the default privacy setting isn't private, it's open, and you don't pay attention to it, and you release your information. Writing in the New York Times in October, Joe Nocera wrote something about recent changes in Facebook's privacy standards. And I want to read just a quote that he said in that article. And he said, as these things go, these particular changes were less than earth-shattering. The first will make employers' news feeds searchable. The second, would make everyone's news feeds searchable. The second would allow teenagers to share their latest thoughts or videos, not just with their friends or their friends of friends, but with anyone who uses Facebook. Previously, under 18 users of Facebook were restricted to sending posts to friends of friends, a category that admittedly can run into the thousands for many teenagers. And here's what David Meyer had to say in September, using a tone. This was in an online article, and he used a very sarcastic tone about the big reveal of about NSA spying. And what he said was, and it was an open letter addressed to the NSA, and it said, you and your counterparts in the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, and possibly elsewhere, are able to monitor most of the conversations and communications flowing around the world. You appear to have successfully subverted the American web services that everyone uses, and you've used the value and size of the US market to bring all manner of internet backbone providers and hardware vendors on side too. Now we also know that you have, in your own words, quote, some capabilities against the encryption in SSL, HTTPS, SSH, VPNs, VoIP, webmail, and other network communication technologies. So even if it takes a fair amount of effort, unlike your indiscriminate data trawling techniques, that's basic internet security out the window. Nicely done. So you can tell the sarcastic tone. But what you and your organizations and the organizations that you work for should do is simply respect the privacy of your customers by telling them you want to collect data and asking them if that's okay. So simply respect the privacy of your customers by telling them you want to collect data and asking them if that is okay. Now, given that we've mentioned the question of respect, let me talk a little bit about the concept of respect. When it comes to respect online, advice to companies can sound a bit like a Sunday school lecture or a heart-to-heart with your parents or high school guidance counselor. But the fact is that the same advice that applies to individuals who want to respect and be respected online also goes for companies, nonprofits, and government agencies. So here are my rules for ensuring a duality of respect and being respected on social platforms. Create content for your social platforms that demonstrates honesty and integrity. Pure selling will never build respect for your organization's social presence. So create content that demonstrates honesty and integrity. Second, show respect for others online. That is, don't be critical to commenters, but do provide honest feedback to them. So don't start insulting the people who insult you. Just communicate respect for the opinions of others. The third is make sure you don't misinterpret comments as critical and jump to conclusions. So don't jump to conclusions about the motivation of people who make comments on your social platforms, for example. Don't misinterpret them. Don't assume that somebody's being critical and negative. Don't jump to conclusions. The fourth is respecting the privacy of others will go a long way to your audiences or your constituents or your customers having respect for you. Ask any of your audience what they want to be kept private. If you ask them this, then they will in turn give back to you respect because you've treated them with respect. And finally, don't feel the need to respond to rude or disrespectful people on your social platform or opponents. They'll never be persuaded of your point of view. Reply respectfully once, then ignore the rest. So again, those are my 5 rules for ensuring that you get respect online and that you respect others online. Now finally, just a few words about transparency. Being transparent online is critical, and I'll explain a little using an example from what happened in the Rupert Murdoch case, but let me just say that companies and organizations need to be transparent online about who you are, what you are doing on any site, what you want from people, and what you will give back to them in return. So again, 4 rules for being transparent. Be transparent about who you are, what you're doing, what you want from people, and what you will give back to them in return for them giving you information they want. That's the best general policy for social web interaction for any government, nonprofit, or company. So let me just say where some of these ideas come, or say why I think these ideas are important. Writing in Forbes magazine in 2011 about the Rupert Murdoch scandal, Paul Klein said, quote, "Businesses now really need to understand something that governments, dictators don't understand. Someday you'll be busted. Anything you do will be known. Social media's gonna get you, and if you're lying, we're gonna know." Egyptian filmmaker Amr Salama said that at the annual Cannes Advertising Festival last month, so that would have been in June of 2011. Today, global corporations run the risk of being busted at any time. The best defense against this is transparency. The problem is that business people don't know what transparency looks like or how to assess whether or not their companies are in fact transparent. I think you can help them in your role should you become a social media community manager, for example, or a manager of social media within an organization. But what transparency means, to go back to the 4 bullets I said before, being transparent online means being open about who you are, being open about what you're doing on the social platform, being open about what it is that you really want from people, and in the end, telling them what you will give back to them in return for what you want from them. Those are the best guidelines that I can come up with how to be transparent. Again, thank you for your time listening to this video, and don't be hesitant to get in touch if you need anything, any information from me. Thanks a lot.